I want to tell you about a conversation I had on a beach in Nha Trang. The man sitting next to me was 61 years old. He had spent 30 years working in insurance in Phoenix, Arizona. He retired with a fixed income of $2,400 a month. In Phoenix, that money covered his rent and not much else. In Nha Trang, it covered a modern apartment 2 minutes from the beach, 3 meals a day eating out, a motorbike, full international health insurance, weekend trips up and down the Vietnamese coast, and he still had $500 left at the end of every month. He had been living there for 18 months. He was not going back. I asked him what the hardest part of the move was. He thought about it for a moment. He said, telling my friends, because they all thought I was crazy. Vietnam? They kept saying. Is that safe? Can you drink the water? Do they have hospitals? He laughed. He said, I have better healthcare access here than I did in Arizona. I pay less for insurance. My doctor speaks perfect English, and I wake up every morning 50 meters from the South China Sea. That is the thing about retiring in Vietnam. Most Americans have a picture of this country built entirely from history lessons and old news footage. They think of the war. They think of jungle and poverty and instability. They do not think of a modern beach city with fast internet, world-class seafood, and a cost of living that makes a fixed American retirement income feel like genuine wealth. I spent 30 days living across 5 Vietnamese cities. I talked to expats who had made the move. I researched the visas, the healthcare, the cost of living, the safety, the social scene. And by the end of those 30 days, I understood exactly why thousands of Americans are quietly choosing Vietnam as the place to spend their retirement years. This is everything you need to know. Let us start with a number that changes everything. How much does it actually cost to retire in Vietnam? I am going to give you 3 budgets. A minimum budget, a comfortable budget, and a luxury budget, because retirement looks different for different people. The minimum budget is for someone who wants to live simply. Local restaurants, public transport, a modest apartment away from the city center. No frills, but genuinely comfortable. That budget is $800 to $1,000 per month. Let me break that down. A 1-bedroom apartment in a decent neighborhood in Danang or Nha Trang costs $200 to $250 per month. In Hoi An, or a quieter part of Hanoi, similar quality runs $180 to $220. Food at local restaurants costs $1.50 to $3 per meal. 3 meals a day, eating out every single day, costs roughly $150 per month. If you cook some meals at home, and Vietnamese markets are extraordinary, that number drops to $100. A motorbike, which is how most expats get around, costs $1,000 to $2,000 to buy outright. Monthly running costs, including petrol and occasional maintenance, $15 to $25. Utilities, electricity, water, internet, run $30 to $50 per month, depending on your air conditioning usage. Basic health insurance for someone in their 60s costs $60 to $100 per month through an international provider. Entertainment, day trips, the occasional nice dinner, a few beers in the evening, add $100. Total minimum budget, approximately $800 to $950 per month. Now the comfortable budget. This is for someone who wants a nicer apartment, eats at mid-range restaurants regularly, travels around Vietnam on weekends, and does not have to think carefully before spending money. That budget is $1,400 to $1,800 per month. Rent for a modern, well-furnished apartment in a good location, $350 to $450. Food mixing local restaurants and occasional Western dining, $250 to $300. Transport including motorbike and occasional taxis or Grab, $60 to $80. Utilities and internet, $50 to $60. Comprehensive health insurance, $100 to $150. Entertainment, weekend trips, shopping, socializing, $300 to $400. Total comfortable budget, $1,400 to $1,550 per month. Now the luxury budget. This is for someone who wants a large modern apartment or a villa with a garden, regular meals at good restaurants, business class travel within Asia, gym membership, regular spa visits, no financial anxiety whatsoever. That budget is $2,500 to $3,500 per month. And here is what makes that remarkable. $3,500 a month in Vietnam buys you a lifestyle that would cost $8,000 to $10,000 a month in a major Western city. A villa with a garden and a private pool in the outskirts of Hoi An costs $800 to $1,200 per month. In Danang, a large modern apartment with sea views costs $500 to $700. Premium health insurance with full international coverage, $200 to $300 per month. The rest goes on everything else. And there is a lot of everything else in Vietnam. Now let us talk about the cities, because where you retire in Vietnam matters enormously. Each city offers a completely different lifestyle. Danang is the most popular choice for expat retirees right now. And once you spend time there, you understand why. Mai Khur Beach stretches for 20 miles along the city's eastern edge. The water is warm, the sand is clean, the city itself is modern and easy to navigate. Roads are smooth, supermarkets are well stocked. The international school and hospital infrastructure that arrived for the expat community over the past decade means the services you need are actually there. Danang also has one of the most active expat communities in Vietnam. There are regular social events, hiking groups, running clubs, language exchanges, and community organizations. If you are worried about feeling isolated in a new country, Danang is probably the best antidote to that concern. The weather is the main caveat. Danang experiences a rainy season from October to January. During those months, it rains heavily and frequently. Most long-term expats either embrace it or spend those months somewhere else in Vietnam. Hoi An is 1 hour south of Danang. It is a completely different atmosphere. This is a slower, quieter, more romantic place to live. The ancient town, all lanterns and yellow walls and river reflections, is genuinely one of the most beautiful places in Southeast Asia. The surrounding countryside is rice fields and fishing villages and bicycle paths through the morning mist. Hoi An is for people who want to slow down completely, who want to wake up slowly, ride a bicycle to a cafe, spend the afternoon reading, eat a long dinner by the river, and do it again tomorrow. The expat community here is smaller than Danang, but tight-knit. Many are artists, writers, and people who left careers specifically to have more time for creative work. The practical limitation is that Hoi An is not a large city. Healthcare facilities are basic. For anything serious, you go to Danang. If that trade-off works for you, and for many people it absolutely does, Hoi An is hard to beat. Ho Chi Minh City is for the retiree who is not ready to slow down. This is a city of 10 million people. It buzzes 24 hours a day. There is always something happening: a new restaurant, a gallery opening, a live music night, a cooking class, a river cruise, a day trip to the Mekong Delta. The infrastructure is the best in Vietnam. International hospitals, world-class restaurants, direct flights to most major Asian cities, a large and diverse expat community spanning every nationality and background. The trade-off is that Ho Chi Minh City is the most expensive city in Vietnam. Rents are higher, traffic is intense. It is loud and hot and relentless. For retirees who spent their careers in major cities and need that energy to feel alive, Ho Chi Minh City is perfect. For people who moved specifically to slow down, it is probably too much. Hanoi is the capital. It is cultural, historical, and cooler in temperature than the south, which matters for people who find tropical heat difficult. The Old Quarter is one of the most walkable neighborhoods in Asia. Ho An Kiem Lake sits at its center, and locals walk its circumference every morning and evening. The street food culture is arguably the best in the country. The museums, galleries, and cultural institutions are the most developed in Vietnam. Hanoi is also where Vietnam's best international schools and hospitals are located, relevant if you have family visiting regularly or if you prioritize access to top-tier healthcare. The winters in Hanoi are genuinely cool. From December to February, temperatures drop to 12 to 16 degrees Celsius. For people from colder climates, this is a welcome break. For people who moved specifically for tropical warmth, it can be a surprise. Nha Trang is the beach city. Think of it as Vietnam's answer to a coastal resort town. But at Vietnamese prices, the bay is beautiful. The diving and snorkeling are excellent. The pace is relaxed. Rents are lower than Danang or Ho Chi Minh City. The expat community in Nha Trang is smaller and more transient than in other cities. It tends to attract people who prioritize beach life above everything else. If you want to wake up, walk to the beach, spend the morning in the water, eat seafood for lunch, and repeat, Nha Trang delivers that consistently. Now let us address the question that stops most people before they even start researching. What about the visa? This is the most common concern I hear from people considering Vietnam retirement. And the honest answer is, it is complicated, but manageable. Vietnam does not currently offer a dedicated retirement visa the way some countries do. This is the main practical challenge of retiring here, and it is worth understanding clearly. Here is how most long-term expats navigate it. The tourist visa allows a stay of up to 90 days. It is available on arrival or through an e-visa system and costs approximately $25. This is fine for testing the waters, but not a long-term solution. The most common approach for long-term residents is the one-year multiple entry business visa, also called the DN visa. This requires a sponsor, typically a Vietnamese company or a registered business. Many expats set up a small business or use a visa agency that provides sponsorship services for a fee. The total cost, including agency fees, runs approximately $300 to $500 per year. The other option that has become increasingly popular is the DH visa, the Digital Nomad and Expert visa, which Vietnam introduced in its expanded visa reform package. This allows stays of up to 1 year for individuals who can demonstrate professional qualifications or remote income. The practical reality is that most long-term expats in Vietnam are on some version of annually renewed visas. It requires some administrative effort once a year. It is not the clean permanent residency that Portugal or Malaysia offer, but the expats who live there overwhelmingly say it is worth the hassle. One important note, Vietnam's visa regulations have changed multiple times in recent years and will likely continue evolving. Before making any decisions, always verify current requirements with a current source, a reputable visa agency in Vietnam or the Vietnamese embassy in your home country. The bottom line, retiring in Vietnam is legally achievable. It requires more active management than some other retirement destinations, but the lifestyle and cost advantages make that management worthwhile for most people who choose to do it. Let us talk about healthcare, because for most people approaching retirement age, this is the question that matters more than any other. Can you actually get good medical care in Vietnam? The honest answer is, it depends on where you are and what you need. In Ho Chi Minh City and Hanoi, international hospitals operate at a standard that is genuinely good by global measures. FV Hospital in Ho Chi Minh City is accredited by the Joint Commission International, the same accreditation body that certifies hospitals in the United States and Europe. Vinmec International Hospital has locations in both major cities and operates to international standards. These hospitals have English-speaking doctors, modern equipment, and medical teams that have been trained internationally. For most conditions, routine care, specialist consultations, minor procedures, emergency treatment, the quality is reliable. Danang has Vinmec Danang and several other international-grade clinics. For serious cases, the standard advice is to go to Ho Chi Minh City or Hanoi, both of which are reachable by a 1-hour flight. In smaller cities like Hoi An and Nha Trang, local hospitals are adequate for minor issues but limited for complex care. Most expats in these cities maintain relationships with clinics in the nearest major city. The cost of healthcare in Vietnam is significantly lower than in Western countries, even at international hospital rates. A specialist consultation at an international hospital costs $30 to $80. A basic blood panel costs $15 to $30. A night in a private hospital room costs $100 to $200. This is why international health insurance is so important and so affordable in Vietnam. A comprehensive policy that covers full international treatment, including medical evacuation costs, $100 to $250 per month, depending on your age and coverage level. This gives you access to the best hospitals in Vietnam and, if needed, evacuation to Bangkok, Singapore, or your home country for treatment. The evacuation coverage is the part that matters most. Bangkok's Bum Ram Grad Hospital, widely considered one of the best hospitals in Asia, is a 2-hour flight from Ho Chi Minh City. Singapore's hospital system is world-class and 3 hours away. For most retirees, the formula works as follows. Use Vietnam's international hospitals for everyday and moderate care. Maintain good international insurance for serious situations. Know that evacuation to a world-class facility is always an option. For people with complex pre-existing conditions requiring highly specialized ongoing treatment, Vietnam requires more careful planning. For people in reasonable health who want access to solid everyday healthcare at affordable prices, Vietnam works very well. Let us talk about safety, because safety concerns stop many people from even considering Southeast Asia as a retirement destination. Vietnam is one of the safest countries in Southeast Asia. That is not a promotional claim. It is backed by consistent data and the lived experience of tens of thousands of expats who have lived there for years. Violent crime against foreigners is rare. Muggings, assaults, and serious crimes of the kind that affect expats in some other developing countries simply do not have a significant presence in Vietnam. The most common safety issues are petty theft. Bag snatching from motorbikes in busy areas is the crime expats most frequently encounter. And traffic. Vietnam's roads, particularly in major cities, are chaotic by Western standards. Motorbike traffic is dense and moves according to its own logic. Pedestrian crossings are suggestions rather than rules. Most expats adapt to the traffic within a few weeks. The key insight is that traffic in Vietnamese cities moves slowly and predictably once you understand its rhythm. You do not wait for a gap. You walk steadily and let the motorbikes flow around you. It sounds terrifying. In practice, it works. Vietnam's political environment is stable. The country has experienced consistent economic growth for 3 decades. The government actively courts foreign investment and increasingly foreign residents. There is no meaningful political instability or civil unrest that affects daily life. Natural disasters are worth understanding. Vietnam experiences typhoons, particularly in the central coastal regions, including Danang and Hoi An, from around September to November. Flooding can occur in low-lying areas. These are real considerations for choosing where to live and what kind of property to rent. Ground-floor apartments in flood-prone areas require careful thought. A higher floor in a modern building in Danang solves most of this concern. The overall picture: Vietnam is safe. More safe in the experience of most long-term expats than they expected before they arrived. Now let us talk about something that nobody discusses enough when it comes to retirement abroad. Will you actually be happy? Retirement in a foreign country is not just a financial decision. It is a complete life redesign, and the social and cultural dimensions of that redesign matter as much as the numbers. Vietnam has a warm and genuinely welcoming culture. Vietnamese people, as a broad generalization, are curious about foreigners, hospitable, and not resentful of expat presence the way populations in some over-touristed destinations have become. In smaller cities and neighborhoods away from tourist centers, you will be a novelty. People will want to talk to you. Neighbors will bring food. The woman who runs the coffee shop on the corner will learn your order within a week and have it ready before you sit down. This warmth is real. But there are also cultural adjustments that take time. Vietnamese communication style is indirect. Disagreement is rarely expressed openly. If something is wrong, you may not be told directly. Learning to read between the lines and to build relationships slowly and patiently matters enormously for quality of life. The language barrier is significant. Vietnamese is a tonal language with 6 distinct tones. It is genuinely difficult for adult learners. Most expats in cities operate in English, which is increasingly spoken by younger Vietnamese people and by anyone working in hospitality, healthcare, or international business. But outside the expat bubbles, English disappears. In local markets, at government offices, in neighborhood interactions, Vietnamese is necessary. Most long-term expats learn basic functional Vietnamese over time. Those who invest in proper language study find their quality of life improves dramatically. The expat communities in Vietnam's main cities are active and well organized. In Da Nang, Ho Chi Minh City, and Hanoi, there are Facebook groups, regular meetups, sports leagues, hiking clubs, and social organizations specifically for English-speaking expats. For someone moving alone, these communities are genuinely valuable, both for practical advice and for social connection. The retirees I met, who were most content in Vietnam, had one thing in common. They had not moved to Vietnam to recreate their life at home in a cheaper location. They had moved with genuine curiosity about the culture, the food, the history, and the people. They had invested time in learning the language, building local friendships, and engaging with Vietnamese life rather than just living inside an expat bubble. Vietnam rewards that investment richly. Let us talk about the practical texture of daily life, because the big categories, cost, visa, healthcare, safety, only tell part of the story. The daily details matter just as much. The food is extraordinary. Vietnamese cuisine is one of the great food cultures of the world. Pho, banh mi, bun cha, khao lao, bun heo, com tam, fresh spring rolls, egg coffee. These are not just dishes, they are entire sensory experiences. And they are available everywhere, at all hours, at prices that make eating out every day not just affordable, but natural. Cooking at home is equally rewarding. Vietnamese wet markets are full of fresh vegetables, seafood, meat, herbs, and tropical fruit at prices that feel almost implausibly low. A full basket of groceries for 3 days of cooking at home costs $5 to $8. Western supermarkets exist in major cities. You can find imported cheese, wine, European cereals, and most things you might miss from home, at higher prices than local products, but still well below Western supermarket prices. The climate is warm. For people from northern climates who have spent decades waiting for summer, living in a country where the temperature rarely drops below 20 degrees Celsius is a genuine quality of life upgrade. The heat takes adjustment, particularly the humidity of the south, but most people adapt within a few weeks. The internet infrastructure is surprisingly good. Average speeds in major cities run 50 to 80 megabits per second. reliable enough for video calls with family, streaming, and any remote work you choose to continue doing. For retirees who want to stay connected with people back home, Vietnam's internet makes that easy. The transport system within Vietnam is excellent for exploration. Budget airlines connect the major cities for $10 to $40 per flight. Overnight trains are comfortable and atmospheric. Bus networks cover even remote areas. Vietnam is not a large country. It is long and narrow, but it is enormously varied. The northern mountains around Sapa are a completely different world from the beaches of the south. The ancient ruins of Mai Son, the cave systems of Phong Na, the rice terraces of Mu Sang Chai, the floating markets of the Mekong Delta. Retiring in Vietnam does not mean staying in one place. It means having one of the most diverse and beautiful countries in Asia as your backyard. Let us be honest about the difficulties, because this is not a promotional video, and retirement in Vietnam is not right for everyone. The bureaucracy is real. Renewing visas, registering your address, navigating government offices, these processes are slow, opaque, and occasionally frustrating. Having a good local contact, a reliable visa agent, or a helpful landlord makes an enormous difference. Going it entirely alone, particularly in the first year, is harder than it needs to be. The noise and chaos of Vietnamese cities is not for everyone. Traffic noise, construction noise, market noise. Vietnamese cities are loud by the standards of places like Northern Europe or North America. Rural areas and smaller towns are quieter, but come with the trade-offs of reduced services. The heat and humidity of southern Vietnam can be challenging for people with certain health conditions. Danang and central Vietnam offer a more moderate climate, but are still warm. Hanoi has genuine cool seasons, which some people find a relief and others find an unpleasant surprise. Isolation is a real risk for people who move without making an effort to build community. Vietnam is not a place where social connection happens automatically. It requires investment, language learning, community participation, genuine curiosity about the culture. People who move expecting an easy social life without effort are often disappointed. The air quality in Ho Chi Minh City and Hanoi is a genuine concern. Both cities regularly record air quality index readings that are classified as unhealthy for sensitive groups. For people with respiratory conditions, this is a serious consideration. Da Nang and coastal cities generally have significantly better air quality. So is Vietnam the best country to retire in 2026? That depends on what you are looking for. If you want a warm climate, extraordinary food, low cost of living, a rich and genuine culture, beautiful landscapes, good healthcare access, and a safe environment, Vietnam is one of the most compelling retirement destinations on Earth. If you want simple, permanent residency paperwork, European standard infrastructure, or a large established English-speaking community that requires no effort to integrate into, Vietnam is harder than some alternatives. But here is the thing. The man I met in Hoi An, the retired accountant from Toronto, summed it up better than I could. He said, "I spent 35 years working hard so I could have a good retirement. I thought a good retirement meant a nice house in a quiet suburb and occasional holidays. Then I moved to Hoi An. I wake up every morning and the light through the window looks like a painting. I eat the best food I have ever eaten for $2. I have more money left at the end of every month than I ever had when I was working. I have made friends from 12 different countries. I have learned 20 words of Vietnamese, and I am working on 20 more." He paused. He said, "This is what I was working for. I just did not know it was here." Vietnam is not for everyone, but for the right person, and you probably already know if that is you, it might be the best decision you ever make. The only question is what you are waiting for. Thanks for watching. If you are seriously considering retiring in Vietnam, leave a comment below. Tell me which city interests you most. I read every single one, and I answer as many as I can. And if you want to see my full cost of living breakdown or my city-by-city comparison, both of those videos are already on the channel. See you in the next one. Let me go back to something I touched on earlier, but want to expand on properly, because the question I get asked most by people considering this move is not about money or visas or healthcare. It is, will I miss home? And the honest answer is yes, you will. At first, missing home is not a sign that you made the wrong decision. It is a sign that you had a life worth missing. The people, the familiarity, the rhythms you built over decades, those matter. Nobody who loves where they came from stops loving it just because they moved. But here is what the people who made this move consistently tell me. They miss specific things. They miss their children and grandchildren. They miss particular friends. They miss certain foods that are impossible to find in Vietnam. Some miss the change of seasons. What they do not miss is the cost of everything. They do not miss the cold months that lasted too long. They do not miss the anxiety of watching their savings slowly shrink while their fixed income stayed the same. And they discover things in Vietnam they did not know they were missing. They discover mornings when you are not rushing to get somewhere, when the day belongs to you entirely, when a cup of Vietnamese coffee on a quiet street at 7 in the morning becomes the best part of your day. You discover what mornings are actually for. They discover patience. Vietnam operates on its own schedule. The bureaucracy is slow. The traffic does not move the way you want it to. The meal takes longer to arrive than you expected. And somewhere in the process of accepting that, something relaxes in you that may have been tense for decades. They discover food as an experience rather than a task. In a country where every meal is an event, where the pho lady has been perfecting her broth for 20 years, where the banh mi cart has a line down the street at 7 in the morning, where a full dinner with fresh seafood costs $5. Food stops being something you do between other things and becomes something worth planning your day around. These are not small things. For people in the second half of their lives, these rhythms and pleasures are exactly what retirement is supposed to provide. Vietnam delivers them in abundance. One more thing I want to address: the question of whether Vietnam is changing too fast. I have mentioned in other videos on this channel that Vietnam's prices are rising, that the most popular cities are developing quickly, that the window of this particular moment will not stay open forever. That is all true, and it is relevant for retirement planning. Here is my honest assessment. Ho Chi Minh City is already more expensive than it was 5 years ago. The central districts are approaching Bangkok prices for rental accommodation. The tourist areas have two-tier pricing that favors Vietnamese residents over foreigners. But Ho Chi Minh City is still 40% cheaper than Bangkok, and Bangkok is still a fraction of the cost of living in a Western city. Danang is developing fast. New apartment buildings are going up along the beachfront. Prices for good apartments have risen meaningfully over the past 3 years. But a comfortable modern apartment with sea views still costs $350 to $500 per month. Hoi An and Nha Trang are still genuinely affordable by any global standard. And beyond the cities most foreigners know, Vietnam has places that have barely been touched by the development wave. Quai Non on the Central Coast was just named one of the top trending global destinations for 2026 by TripAdvisor. It is beautiful, affordable, and largely undiscovered by the expat retirement community. The old imperial capital 2 hours north of Da Nang, is one of the most atmospheric cities in Vietnam. It is significantly cheaper than Da Nang, quieter, and deeply cultural. The expat community is small but growing. The point is this: Vietnam will get more expensive. The most popular areas will develop. That is inevitable. But the country is large, diverse, and still in an early stage of its development arc. The combination of modern infrastructure, low cost, warm culture, and extraordinary food will remain a reality in Vietnam for at least another decade, and probably longer. The people who wait for the perfect moment will find that the perfect moment was now. Let me give you one final practical checklist. If you are seriously considering retiring in Vietnam, here is what I would do in what order. First, visit. Spend at least 30 days in Vietnam before making any decisions. Visit more than one city. Live as close to how you would actually live. Rent an apartment. Cook some meals. Use local transport. Go to a clinic. Find a gym. Rather than staying in hotels and treating it as a holiday. You are testing a lifestyle, not taking a vacation. Second, pick your city. Based on your priorities, climate, community, access to healthcare, pace of life, budget. Identify which city fits you best. The cities I described in this video are different enough that your choice matters significantly. Third, sort your finances. Understand your income in detail. Know your monthly number. Research the most tax-efficient way to receive your pension or retirement income in Vietnam. A good international financial advisor who works with expats can save you significant money over time. Fourth, get health insurance before you go. Do not arrive without it. International health insurance is affordable from Vietnam and provides genuine security. Research providers specifically experienced with Southeast Asia expat coverage. Fifth, connect with the community before you move. The Facebook groups, expat forums, and online communities for Vietnam expats are active and genuinely helpful. People who have already made this move are generous with their knowledge. Ask questions. Get real answers from real people. Sixth, go. Do not let the paperwork, the unknowns, and the unfamiliarity stop you from doing something that could genuinely transform the quality of your retirement years. The man in Hoi An waited until he was 61 to make the move. He tells me his only regret is that he did not do it at 55. Do not be the person who looks back at this video in 10 years and wishes they had moved when the moment was right. The moment is right.